What's up, my dudes? Thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you guys have the most excellent day today. Now, if you're thinking I'm sounding a bit weird today, it's because I'm still recovering from another bout of COVID, which I picked up and confuzzled. So everything's a bit gnarly right now. But definitely not as gnarly as what I've been hearing has been going on over in Russia. According to my good buddy Matthew, has told me that a Moscow Furmeet actually came under attack by a group of fascists recently. And not only do I have witness testimonies to this, but I got photos and video footage of what happened. So apparently the Moscow Furries were out on their regular fursuit walk, and they were just kind of chilling down by the lake, having fun, doing fursuity stuff, playing games, that kind of thing. They were doing the kind of stuff that any one of us would recognize from our local furries, just being furries and having fun. Now, I don't know if they had any security in place for this fursuit walk. I would assume they did have, because at previous fursuit walks, they have been harassed by none other than Russian politicians and various other fringe whack jobs, so you'd have thought they'd had some sort of security, but I don't know if they had any security looking after the fursuit walk. But anyway, from what I understand from my bud Matthew, they were approached by a group of about 40 rather gnarly looking right-wing fascist dudes who started hurling homophobic slurs at them and generally being complete assholes. And if you check this photo out you'll be seeing on screen now, they did actually manage to get a couple of pictures of these dudes, and you can see that they don't look like the brightest sparks, that's definitely for sure. But yeah, they were throwing around homophobic slurs and accusing the furries of being homosexuals, which, as you guys know, is a crime in Russia from what I understand. So, they were accusing the furries of being criminals because they were homosexual. Now, as you know, the furry fandom does have a large contingent of LGBTQ plus types in it. So, that's really low-hanging fruit for them to be throwing about like, it's clear they saw the fursuit walk as an easy target, and they just started throwing these accusations at the furries. And then they started using this as an excuse to start getting violent with the furries. And as you can see from this one video, one of the furries did catch himself a black eye, which is pretty gnarly. From what I understand, 3 furries did have their fursuits taken from them and then subsequently damaged, which is pretty gnarly in itself. And then when they tried to recover their fursuits, the fursuits were then thrown into the lake. Which is like, what the hell, dude? And then to add insult to injury, these gnarly fascist dudes, they actually threw the furries themselves into the lake. Now, as you guys may know, if you get a fursuit head wet, you really got to make sure you get it dried out quick and make sure that water doesn't linger in there, because otherwise that fursuit head is going to get rather gnarly and moldy. And even if you manage to repair all the physical damage, the head's going to be completely unwearable. So I really hope those furries manage to get their fursuit heads dried out quickly before anything gnarly set in. And you can see from the video I'm showing you on screen right now some of the damage when the fursuit heads suffered. I mean, these people were not gentle. They did not take care of these dudes' fursuit heads, and that's not groovy, my dudes. My heart really goes out to these furries in Moscow who really have suffered a really nasty attack in this situation. I know that over here in the West we sometimes get chavs harassing fursuit walks and stuff, but we don't get beaten up, our heads taken and ripped apart and then thrown in a fucking lake. I mean, what the hell's going on there, dudes? And there's no point going to the Russian police because, as I said earlier, Russia views homosexuality as a crime. And the fact that there's so many LGBTQ plus people in the furry fandom and presumably at this fursuit walk, the police ain't gonna do shit to help. They're gonna see the fursuiters as the criminals and the fucking fascists as just being upstanding Russian citizens, which, as we know with the whole Ukraine thing, isn't really much to boast about, if you know what I mean. But the furries did manage to escape from the fascists, a bit battered, a bit bruised, but alive, which is the important part. Because from what I understand, some of the fascists were carrying weapons, and it could have been a much nastier situation if someone got stabbed or potentially even killed at a fursuit walk. And it's scary to even think that's possible in this day and age, but apparently in Moscow, it is. You're taking your life into your own hands when you go on a fursuit walk there, apparently. And I'm hoping that the Moscow furries can prevent this kind of thing from happening again in the future. Now, at Cardiff Meets, we actually have a group of stewards who go with our fursuit walks to keep everyone safe. And I'm figuring maybe, I'm presuming the Moscow furries have got something similar, but if not, they really need to get some people who are out of suit and just looking after the fursuiters in general, making sure no one unsavory gets near them. Now, obviously, with 40 fascists approaching, no level of reasonable security that you could put in place is going to be able to deal with that. You can't confront that head on. The only option in that situation is to bug out, get the furries out of that situation as soon as possible. Now, the security detail, I'd say get some, bigger, beefier type furries to take on that kind of role. And what you need to do is have, them run a kind of rear guard while the fursuit walk gets the hell out of Dodge, gets away from the fascists. And once they're in a safe place, have an established place that they can bug out to, then the rear guard just kind of bugs out themselves. That way, you're not letting vulnerable furries get harassed, get thrown in a fucking lake of all things. And the other thing I'd recommend that they do, and it's something that I've seen work well when we was at Confuzzled and was getting harassed by Chavs, when the guys pulled out his camera and started filming everything. Now, if you start filming these dudes being dicks, they're less likely to do something that could potentially get them into trouble, such as throwing you into a fucking lake. So if you have someone filming everything, not only do you have evidence of what's going on, but it discourages some of the gnarlier stuff that they might want to do. So have someone start filming as soon as something like this kicks off. Just whip out a camera, start going at it. The other concern I think this brings up is, how did these fascists find out about the fursuit walk? Now, you don't just randomly have 40 fascists tooled up randomly encounter a fursuit walk. They had prior knowledge that this was going down. Now, I don't know if the Moscow Furries post publicly when and where they're planning on doing these things, but I'm thinking going forward, maybe they need to be a little bit more secretive in advance, so this kind of counter thing can't be planned against them. Vet who has the knowledge of what's going to happen, where the fursuit walk's going to go, what time, what date, that kind of stuff. And make sure it's not something that these fascists can easily get hold of. I don't know how they got hold of it. Maybe they have someone spying, I don't know. But you guys need to tighten up who knows about this. They can't prepare this kind of ambush for you dudes, you know what I mean? But yeah, I am glad that the Moscow Furries got out mostly safe and unhurt. It's a shame to see those fursuits getting damaged and thrown in a lake like that. But hopefully they can all be repaired, and the damage wasn't too bad, and hopefully everyone's on the mend by now. Going forward, I hope this doesn't happen to you dudes again. And I'd like to give a special shout out to my man Matthew and to Dog Patch Press, who covered this as well, just for providing so much information for this video and providing the video clips I've used. So massive thank you to you dudes. Also massive thank you to my Patreons who helped make this video possible. You guys are most excellent. Consider joining my Patreon if you haven't. You get early access to my videos, you get to see some of my artwork early. Also consider joining my Discord, where a lot of us hang out, just chill, shoot some memes at each other and have a laugh. Other than that though, I hope you guys have a most excellent day, an amazing week, and I will see you guys in the next video, okay? Take care, ta-ra.